LuLu! 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 LuLu!
The kangaroo is on the Australian national emblem. This is not only because it is an animal which only Australia has, but also because this is a kind of animal which only jumps forward. So it symbolises the spirit of Australia, forever going forward. However, have you ever heard of an heroic kangaroo who could save a human life? Kangaroo Lulu is this kind of animal.
He bought an extra dozen and put them in a pouch. Then he gave.
So, let's start the story from the beginning. The Latrobe Valley, 150 kilometres east of Melbourne, is a place rich in brown coal and has the biggest thermal power plant in Victoria. This is the home of the Richards family. Our host, Len Richard, his wife Lynn, son Luke, daughter Celeste, and their dog Busty.
This is Jenna. Hello. This is my brother's girlfriend. She's my best friend and we live together. Yep. And Mum and Dad look after wildlife animals and we've raised rabbits and things like that. Dad picks up animals off the road and looks after them.
They've come home, the children have come home here with king parrots, have found that are sick. They've come home with wombats. They've come home with possums.
Their house is on a main road and surrounded by thick bush. Often wild animals come to visit them. Their special link with these animals goes back to when they were children.
Approximately about 4.5 years ago, our son had gone out, has a few mates around the place and he had been over the road, and when they came back there was a large kangaroo on the road. So what he did was they pulled over and he hopped out to pull the kangaroo off the road so that it was, you know, no traffic could sort of hit it or anything. Well, it had already been hit. And as he did, the pouch moved and he thought, oh. So he put his hand in and of course there was a little Joey in there.
The pouch, moving and that. So I had a look in there and put my hand and I felt the little baby Ruth, she was only little. I pulled her out and wrapped her up in my jumper and brought her home. And Mum and Dad didn't know at first because I brought her straight inside and put her in my room and I was feeding her and giving her water and that.
So the next morning I got up and I went into Luke's room and there was newspaper all over the floor and I said, what's all this newspaper on the floor, Luke? Oh, I've got a little friend, Mum. And out pops this little Joey. And I went, oh, no. I said, no more animals. And he said, Mum, I promise I'll look after it. And I said, well, if you're going to keep it, you're going to have to look after it.
I thought that was very, very heart-touching for a young teenage boy to want to do that for an animal. And I said, well, you're going to have to look after it.
I made all these pouches out of like an old sleeping bag. I cut it up and I actually made 3 with a large strap so that it was like a mother's pouch, and Luke carried her everywhere in these pouches.
At the very, very start when we had her in the pouch and I was trying to bottle feed her, it was hard. She kept refusing the bottle for the first couple of days and then she'd take a bit in, and I thought at the stage she must have been too old for it. She kept just pushing the bottle away, so I went out and grabbed some grass and I put some grass next to her pouch, and I got up in the morning and the grass was all gone.
And they kept feeding it 3 times a night for quite a long time, until one morning I heard them scream out, "She's eating grass!"
During the day, Lem was always with her, but she slept inside for a long, long time in Luke's room. But then we'd just hang the pouch outside, and she'd just hop in and out whenever she wanted, and yeah, she just become part of our family.
She was made just a member of the family, and then it was sit around and pick a name, and I think Lynn come up with the name Lulu. It was Lynn, and she became LuLu the Kangeroo.
You can see the strangest things, and I'll tell you now that the strangest thing you ever will see, you won't believe your eyes. It's a black crow flying backwards to keep the dust out of his eyes. I have seen a kangaroo thirsty from the drought hop into a country pub and buy the boys a shout. He bought an extra dozen and put them in a pouch. Then he gave a grin and left the pub hopping with a slouch.
See, September last year we had some rain, then at the same time we got some big winds that come through. And then we had a big gum tree on our property fall over. So the following day I decided to go down and clean up some of the limbs that were being cut off the tree that had fell down, and Lulu come bounding along with me, which she does every day.
One early morning in September 2003, an accident occurred. A tree branch broke off and hit Len on the head. Len fell to the ground and lost consciousness.
And I got up in the morning and I was going to do all my ironing, and our nephew was here, Brendan. I just heard Lulu. It's a croaking bark, but that's probably the only sound that I've ever heard her make. This sound is to us is very rare. I heard this noise and I looked and I seen her down at this tree, and I just knew straight away that's where Len was, and I just said to Brendan, "Quick, Len's down there." And he's 6 foot, so he ran a lot quicker than my little legs, and I ran down there as well. When we got down here, Len was laid across here, laid on his left side with the branch that had come right across his head. Lulu was sitting behind him. This part of her legs was actually up against his back, so it had kept him on his side. He had, like as I said, the froth was coming out of his mouth. I'm pretty sure, as humans would do it, that if someone was frothing at the mouth, it's instinct to put them on their side so that they don't choke.
Yeah, when I found him, the branch was still laying across his head. It was probably about that round and long, I'd say. And it was still across his head, and he had like bits of bark and stuff all on his head and that still, so I moved all that off his head and support his head, cleared his airway.
Then the ambulance come and they put him in the ambulance, then they put him into the helicopter, and then they took him down to the Alfred Hospital.
And Brendan's the type of boy, he doesn't say much. And about a month later he goes, "Uncle Len, do you know Lulu had you tipped on your side and all that stuff was coming out of your mouth, and she had you tipped on your side with the big feet under you, holding on to you with the little hands." That broke me up.
And the whole time Lulu had stayed there at his side, and as they were putting him in the ambulance, she was still there. She was actually still there in the same spot.
I thought that he was going to die. I didn't know what to do. I was in a daze. I just was shocked. I didn't know what I was feeling. I was just scared.
But yeah, if it hadn't been for Lulu making the sound that she did to alert me that that's where he was, I don't think that Len would be here today.
Which is heart-touching to me, to reflect that my son actually saved her life a few years earlier, for her to repay it and do something for a human being, it's just an extraordinary story. And you can see her, she's an extraordinary animal.
On May the 18th, 2004, the Australian Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals issued Lulu with the National Animal Valour Award to recognise her special achievement.
The Animal Valour Award is to recognise those animals who do something quite exceptional for a human. This is the first time that the RSPCA National Council has given an Animal Valour Award to a wild animal, in this case a kangaroo named Lulu.
Lulu! Lulu!
The amazing rescue by Lulu seems difficult to explain by today's scientific standards. Instead, it fulfills an old saying, the good is rewarded with good. If you act with compassion, perhaps you can receive more than you could ever imagine possible.